Join me in prayer. God, as we share in this message this morning, we ask that you would open our hearts, our minds, that you may breathe new life into each and every one here, that you may speak to us, renew us, inspire us, send us back into the world, new people. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, our bishop of the Mountain Sky area, the Bishop Karen Oliveto, she put out a statement, I think it was a couple weeks ago now, and she started it this way. She said, "It is said that the appointment process in the United Methodist Church is like an arranged marriage. The pastor and the congregation are matched with the hopes that they will fall in love with one another." Well, I was doing a little bit of research and come to find out there is an actual reality television show called Arranged. Are any of you willing to admit that you've watched it? It follows these arranged marriages. And this is what the reality television show has to say about arranged marriages. Arranged marriages are complicated by definition. The bride and the groom are selected by a third party rather than by each other. Entire families immerse themselves into these relationships. As each party adjusts to new roles and new issues, like money squabbles, like meddling people, and more stress and potential roadblocks show up to this long-lasting arrangement. And that sounds about right, doesn't it, as we come together in this time? Well, there is a great story in the Gospels where Jesus is on the boat with his disciples, and they find themselves in the midst of a storm, and the wind comes, and they're afraid. And Jesus calms the storms and the winds, and the disciples are in awe, and they ask this great question. They say, "Who is this man who can calm the storms and the winds?" And I'm guessing that some of you over the last several months, once it was announced from this pulpit that I would be joining you as your next pastor, I'm guessing some of you have said to yourself, "Who is this woman that we now call pastor?" So today is going to be a little bit different than most of the messages that I will bring from the pulpit on Sunday. Most of my messages are biblical. I love to wrestle with the Gospels and the Scriptures to find out relevant ways that we can connect to the question of who we are and whose we are. But today I thought I would just bring you a message to just get to know a little bit more about me. Do you remember, it's been several years now, but do you remember when David Letterman did his late night talk show? And I think he would begin each one by presenting a top 10 list. Do you remember, did anyone stay up that late to watch? Well, I thought I would do something similar and share with you sort of a top 10 things you need to know about me as your pastor. 10, I love memes. Does anyone else love memes as much as I do? I love them. Ask my children. I will send them to them all the time. My photos are full of them. Some of them are thoughtful. Some of them are funny. Here's one now. I love this one. How cool is it that the same God that created mountains and oceans and galaxies looked at you and thought the world needed one of you too? Even you, Butch. It hasn't taken me long. I like this one. Everyone needs a friend they probably shouldn't be allowed to sit next to at a function. We have those. There's several more that we can look at. Oh, this is a good one. Religion is at its best when it makes us ask hard questions of ourselves. And it's at its worst when it deludes us into thinking we have all the answers from everybody else. Yeah. It's not your body or your blood. It's not your table. It's not your church. It's not your invitation. You are the servant. I am the servant. You are the master. This is a good one, too. You were appointed ambassador of the good news, not a bouncer at the door of Club Heaven. Amen. Golly, the tragedy of life is not death, but what we let die inside of us while we live. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, you got to like Dr. Seuss. You have brains in your head and you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. When you can't wait for Sunday because the new pastor's here. I'm not sure how many cookies it takes to be happy, but so far it's not 27. So I love memes and I love jokes. The dumber, the better. So if you have some good jokes you can share with me, I just thought, just for fun, should I share just a couple this morning? These are so bad. I mean, you may not even laugh, but they're so bad. They're so cheeky and silly. And here's one. What kind of man was Boaz before he married? Oh, so bad. Ruthless. I mean, come on. How did Moses make his coffee? You know this one. He brews it. I mean, so bad. Where is the first baseball game in the Bible? In the big inning, Eve stole first, Adam stole second, Cain struck out Abel, the giants and the angels were rained out. I don't even understand that one. It's not, but I love jokes and I love to laugh, and I can tell that you all love to laugh. Mark Twain said this: humanity has unquestionably one really effective weapon: laughter. Power, money, persuasion, supplication, persecution, these can lift at a colossal humbug, push it a little, weaken it a little, century by century. But only laughter can blow it to rags and atoms at a blast. Against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. A friend came by this week to see me in my new church, and when he stepped in, Tricia and I were sitting at the table and we were doing some work and just laughing and enjoying the time while we were here, and as he left, he turned to me and he said, "Claire, I can already tell this is a special place." He could feel the Spirit of God here. 8, I love my family. Sometimes I don't like them, but I love them. Here's some pictures. My son Wynn just graduated, and we got some pictures, some professional pictures taken. I've been married to my husband Joel for over 26 years now this past May, and we have 3 boys. Ethan's almost 22, Will's almost 21, and my son Wynn is almost 18. He'll be 18 this Friday. We'll have 3 adults in our house. Sometimes we look that way, but normally my boys look like this. They're with 3 boys, it's always interesting in our house. And my oldest son, he wasn't able to be with us today. He's at Wyoming, and so I asked him if he would just send a little bit of a video clip, and I said, just tell the church, my new church, what do you think that they need to know about me? So take a look.
Hi guys, my name is Ethan Drewes. I am Claire's oldest son, and I go to the University of Wyoming, and I play football up here. And 3 things that I know about my mom is I know that she loves taking family pictures. I know that she hates it when we go on fishing trips and she is stuck reading all day long by herself. And I know that she is a great public speaker and really knows how to touch the hearts of those who listen to her. I hope you guys enjoy today's message from her, and God bless.
7, number 7, we're getting there. I believe we are meant to be in community. I believe in the church. I believe that the church at its best is an outpost for you and for me to come, to be filled up, to fill our spiritual tanks, to plug in, if you will, to unplug as well, to unplug from all the things that sort of fill our brain, but plug in and to recharge and to be sent back into the world to do the work of the holy. And our work, it is holy. I heard from a friend as I was coming up upon my start day. I heard from a dear friend of mine who also happened to be a dear friend of Kate Gordon's. And she talked to me about the love that this church showed Kate in her dying. And then she talked to me about the love that this church showed Dennis when she died. And she talked about the service and gathering to be here in this church and to celebrate Kate's life. She, being a person who does not go to church, said to me, "I could get behind a church like yours." And in my first few meetings that I have had the privilege to be a part of here at Heart of Longmont over these months leading up, we have talked about things that matter. We have talked about concerns for the unhoused, for the homeless in our particular community. How might we get involved? How might we use our building, our space to make a difference, to come up with some solutions to help those who are unhoused? And we're not just asking the questions just because we're bored, if you will. We're asking the questions. I can tell that you are asking these questions because you take seriously from the Gospel of Matthew, the 25th chapter, the 40th verse, when Jesus says, "I assure you that what you have done, when you have done it for the least of these, you have done it for me." Number 6. While I love the church, while I believe that we are meant to be in community, we have a lot of work to do to make up for the image that the Christian tradition has in the world. There's a book that I've loved throughout my years of ministry. I'm not going to tell you how long ago it was written. It'll make me feel old. But it's a book called "I Love Jesus, But I Don't Like the Church." They're not alone in that. Pew Research has shown a sharp decline in those who claim Christianity. In fact, it is now the minority. And you know who the majority is? They're called the nuns. The nuns are those that check the box "none of the above" when asked their religious affiliation. That's the majority in our culture and in our community, which I think is exciting, because it gives us a chance to share a faith that is real and relevant, that believes that science and faith can actually be together in one space and have a conversation. I believe that this is exciting because we can talk about climate control, we can talk about gun safety, we can talk about things that matter, we can listen, we can think alike, we can think differently, but we can love alike. That's the statement that John Wesley said. Even when we think differently, we can love alike. That's the beauty of United Methodism. There is a woman who is what is she? Her name is Diana Butler Bass, and she's an American historian of Christianity, and she wrote this tweet. She said, "A wee reminder," and this was related to our squabbles that we're in the midst of, the division we're having around human sexuality as a denomination. She said, "A wee reminder to my United Methodist friends. Methodism began as a spiritual movement to renew a decaying institutional church, to serve the outcast, the marginalized, the poor." Can you imagine? Just for a second, I want you to just stop and imagine with me getting back to being a movement that does exactly that. American Christianity has a bad rap, and quite frankly, for a good reason. When young people were asked why they've abandoned the church, the top reasons were this. They said that they see the church as divisive, hypocritical, and judgmental. One young person said, "I already feel bad enough. I don't want to go to the church and feel worse." In Luke 9:46, Jesus' disciples were arguing about who was the greatest. Do you remember Jesus' response? Jesus, knowing their thoughts, he took a little child to stand right beside him. And he said, "Whoever welcomes this child welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me, for it is in the one who is the least among you who is the greatest." Similarly, the Pharisees confronted Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew to ask which commandment was the greatest, and he simplified it. He said it's simple. Love God and love each other, your neighbor. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if the news stories were not about us fighting over things like human sexuality or masks or a variety of other things, but the news stories showed us at our best loving? Number 5, I have 2 scriptures that shape and form every day of my life, and it's the 2 scriptures that you heard John read this morning. I use them as breath prayers. Because, see, I have sort of a weird story. I wasn't raised in the church. I came to know Jesus in my teen years. I had a true born-again experience, so I have a little bit of evangelical in me. I'll just have to warn you now, give forewarning. And I love Jesus. And I believe Jesus changes lives. Jesus changed mine. Jesus came that I may have life, life abundant. But see, when I was a kid, I also loved Led Zeppelin. And I was so confused because the church that I was a part of said Led Zeppelin was of the devil and you had to get rid of all of your music. And it was so confusing to me, and it was so judgmental, and it was not of grace. And it was not of mercy. That's what I love about the United Methodist Church. Okay, we just have a few more. Number 4. I talk too much. Number 3, I believe hope is our secret weapon as people of faith. Hope is what the world needs more of. Years ago, I, like many of you, have been going to the Church of the Resurrection Leadership Institute for many years, and there's this one story that I'll never remember. It was a guest speaker, and he told this story where he was burnt out and he was tired as a preacher and a pastor and sort of was ready to throw his hands up and didn't even know if the church mattered or made any difference in the world. And he said that there was this pastor emeritus that was called upon the stage to give the benediction. He was in his 90s, and he said the pastor made his way down the aisle, and he got up in front of this entire large group of gatherers who were there for the church to give the benediction, and he stopped and he looked at all the people, and he started really quietly, and he said, "You." And then he pointed and said, "And you, and you, and you, and you," and he went and he said, "And you, and you are the hope of the world." And then he paused and he said, "So go act like it. You are the hope of the world, and the world needs hope." 2 and 1 go together. I'm going to combine them here. I believe in the African proverb of Ubuntu, the South African philosophy that I am because we are. I believe we are connected. And I believe one of the most important roles of the people of faith is to push back darkness in the world and to live into that Christmas message that we share each and every Christmas, that that Jesus is the light of the world. So we are called to go and be light. Several years ago, NPR did a segment on a man that came to be known as Dancing Matt. This young man traveled all over the world to dance with different people with different cultural backgrounds. He was asked why he would do such a thing, and he talked about his desire to be able to share to the world how important it is that he believes how connected we really are. This is what he said. He said, "See, I am fantastic at seeing other people's differences. Everybody is. I can quickly pick out those who look and behave differently, and unless I actively override the tendency to do so, I will perceive them as a threat. That instinct may have once been useful, but now, in our global world, it's a liability. When I dance," he said, "with people, I see them smile and laugh and act ridiculous. It makes those differences smaller. the world seems simpler and more full of love. I want you to take a look at Dancing Matt. So thank you for giving me the privilege to serve alongside of you. I really do believe that together we will do great things, and I know we will continue to put a lot of God's love into a deeply hurting world. Amen.